Three people with tism walk into a room. It's not a joke. They decide to do a book video. Slanche. Well, that was off to a rocky start. Welcome to something we're calling Tipsy Book Reviews. I promise we're sober at this point.
Not for long.
No, not for long.
Definitely
Okay, we've
not.
got plans. So on my, what is this side? Right. This is Ches Barrow.
It's the tism.
And in 2 years' time, we're putting an ultimatum out there. She's going to have a fantasy book. High fantasy, right, Ches?
High fantasy.
And I know the story, and it's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
I got the stink eye.
At least you know the story.
And
Not
on
so
my
sure anymore.
on my left is Genevieve Kruse. She's a published author. She writes contemporary romance, and this is her book, Not Quite Meant to Be.
Howdy, darling.
And I go under the name of Rosalie Fox most days.
But she's lying to you. It's not a real name.
Oh, shut up. I've written 2 historical fiction novels. 3, the third one coming out December.
She's
and
precocious.
Yes, allegedly. They are all set in World War II, and today we're going to talk nonsense about books. So it's been a wild ride.
Nonsense, yes.
The last couple of weeks, because Jen started Ches on some books and I've been listening, and it's been something. So
Something, yes.
so what books are they?
Unfortunately. I was subjected to A Court of Thorns and Roses.
She loved it. She's a
I loved
Cashian
it.
fan.
I hated it. I loved it.
Don't let her tell you nonsense. She was happy. She enjoyed every second.
I enjoyed listening. I have not read them, and I'm not so much into that kind of wingspan.
Don't judge the wingspan.
Don't judge the wingspan. The
Don't judge
wingspan
the
is good. It makes for good flights.
Good
And
flights.
Yes. Better than Emirates and South African Airlines.
I don't think that's hard.
More or less turbulence.
More.
Yeah, definitely
More.
more. Especially if it takes place in dining rooms and yes. Yes.
And headboards are involved.
I'm traumatized. Tell me more.
So I think it's best to start at the beginning of the books.
Mhm.
I read all 5 of these books in a week. I'm ashamed.
You should not be. I read all 9 Outlander books in 6 weeks. That's worse.
And then kept rereading them.
Yes.
So my first impressions reading ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book, was this is Beauty and the Beast with more bestiality.
It has a mask.
And then I was kind of disappointed that there was no bestiality. It was not as spicy as like Book Talk made me think it was. It was kind of bland.
Yeah, the first one is kind of bland.
It was kind of bland.
And then they give you hope with the whole full moon situation, and then just
Yeah, I mean,
nothing happens.
You will think, I mean, Callan Mai, there's whole orgies happening, but you never see any of them.
No, and then you were disappointed severely.
Severely. And then, so I did not really enjoy the writing of these books. Not my style. But the story was good enough that I persevered, and also I was told I had to.
Who did
For the sake
telling?
of the voice notes, you had to.
I had to. And I hated every minute.
No, you did not.
Up until we met Rhysand.
I thought you were a Cassian fan. You're a
I
traitor.
am a Cassian fan. Rhysand was there first.
Yes.
It's fine to love Rhysand as long as you don't know Cassian yet.
So you were okay with average bat wings, and then you encountered superb bat wings, and it converted you.
So this makes me think of Shane Topp's bit where he pretended to be Sarah J. Maas, and I dare to take the question there, what if fairies could clap cheeks?
Yes. But we're jumping ahead of the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So, Feyre, main male character, whatever you call her.
No, she's not a male.
Female, sorry. I need more gin.
He's a
The,
woman.
the main female character was so irritating for the first book.
I think you sent me a message that she's dumb as shit.
Dumb as dirt.
I killed the wolf, but I'm expecting no consequences for my actions. No.
No, I mean, just fine, be illiterate, but don't be dumb. You don't have to read to be smart. It helps. You don't have to read to be smart. And it was just... She tested my patience.
So I'm ignorant, and I'm trying to become slightly less so. So where does Farah fit in? Is she like an outsider? Is it
She was a human child.
human.
Yeah, a human child. And
from
she
the
was,
same
No.
realm, or did she come
Different realm,
through the
yeah.
closet?
Yeah, through the closet.
The Narnia.
She
Yes.
came out of the closet. So she was... Her father lost their fortune and they were living in a shack in the middle of nowhere.
And she's the youngest.
She's the
no?
youngest of 3 children. It was her, Nesta, and the other one.
Elaine.
Yes. And she would go out hunting every day to feed the family because Nesta was Nesta and the other one was there. And the father had a broken leg. Or something.
Yes.
or something.
So she would go out hunting every day and then
At
one
least
day...
not broken wings.
Well, he's human. So she went out and she was hunting and she was busy aiming at this deer and like ready to strike, and then she saw a wolf and she went, "Oh, is it a wolf? Is it a fairy? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm going to kill it anyway." Killed it.
Shot it through the eye.
Yeah, shot it in the chest with the ash arrow
Mm-hmm.
and then shot it through the eyeball.
Yes.
Skinned it, hoisted up her deer, and then walked all the way home and then went and sold the wolf pelt. And then that night they go home, they're sitting around the fire or something, and the door just blows open and in walks Tampon. Sorry, Tamlin.
You should warn me before you say
Was-
this, like
was-
that I'll
was it a
chip
rough-
my teeth on my glasses.
Was it a rough period in her life?
So Tamlin comes bursting in his beast form. He's like a mix between like a bear and a big cat and a wolf with antlers.
And apparently that's supposed to be hot, but it really, really is not.
Yeah, it was weird. But he bursts in, breaks down the door, cusses everybody out. Who killed the wolf? She goes, "I did." So he gives her this ultimatum of either I kill you now or I take you back with me to Prithian.
Because it's an exchange.
Yes, a life for a
A
life.
life for a life, essentially.
Turns out that's all bullshit. It was all a lie.
Yes.
He was just a horny beast.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to it, but basically,
Essentially.
he had to be a horny beast for reasons that we learn later in the story. So he takes her back to Prithian. And Tamlin is the High Lord of the Spring Court, so she's now in this lovely land of spring, eternal spring, which sounds horrible for my allergies. Would not be able to live there. I don't care how pretty that house is. He turns back into his human form, or fae for whatever, and she's like, "Oh my god, he's so hot. But I hate him because he's a fairy.
And he stole me away from my
Stole
people.
me away from my family, and how am I supposed to feed my family now?" And it was very...
Feed them wolves.
Yeah. It was very weird, the first bit. Like, she was so anti-everybody and anti-everything, and I was just like...
So we start with a mixture between Little Red Riding Hood and
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
so
essentially.
Dummy and the Beast.
Dummy and the Beast, yes.
Is she pretty?
Apparently.
According to Tamlin, yes.
According to Tamlin.
Okay.
Oh,
Although-
and Tamlin also has a mask, even in his human
Yeah.
form, a wolf mask.
Yeah, so he's got like this gold mask just
And he
permanently
can't take
fastened
it
to
off.
his face. He can't take it
What is the thing with masks? It confuses the living daylights out of me.
So you learn later on in the story that they are actually cursed.
The entire Spring Court.
Yeah, the entire Spring Court is cursed by Amarantha.
The Wicked Witch of the Caves.
Mountain. Basically. So I don't know if you want to jump forward and back in the story for the sake of knowing how things work.
I have an ADHD brain. I'm going to jump forward and back whether I
I-
want to or not.
Yes. So Amarantha wanted to marry Tamlin or whatever the hell it was. So he didn't want to.
And she's evil.
She's evil. She like took over the whole Prithian. I don't know if you could call it a country.
Yeah.
Like she's taken over. She's dampened everybody's power. She's ruling from under the mountain in the middle. Sorry, my hands. I don't know what to do with my hands. So she cursed him and his entire court by inviting them to a masquerade ball, and she doped all the drinks. So as soon as they drank the drinks, they were essentially under her control, and the masks were stuck on them. And she said, I will give you 7 by 7 years, so 49 years, to get a human girl that hates Fae to fall in love with you, to break the curse.
Oh, that's where that video I saw. Okay.
Yeah. So he would send out one of his sentries as an animal, a wolf, whatever, waiting for a beautiful young girl to kill them. And there were essentially like a few months left of the 49 years, and he sent one out, and that was the one that she killed. So now she's there, and he's got to try and get her to fall in love with them when she hates Fae. It was very weird.
And Tampon doesn't have a very winning personality, I gather.
Apparently he's quite charming, well, according to Farah, but she's not smart, so
Yeah, she's not very smart.
we
So
don't know.
that book should have been called A Flag of Red and Red.
I agree.
Yeah, his first compliment to her was she arrived, she went and she showered, and she came down for dinner, and he said, "Your hair is clean," and that was his compliment.
I love when men say that to
I
me.
know, right? It really just
Sure. The
gets me dripping like a
butterflies.
percolator.
Thank you for that image. Thank you.
So he's not.
Is
He's
that
not
why you're
very
wearing
charming.
gumboots?
Yes.
That went south. I will get back in my corner.
So
I have got gin in my sinus canal.
It's help for the infection. It's antibacterial.
anyway,
I said I needed sanitizer earlier.
so
Pull it up higher. It's not your sinuses that are the problem.
So we also meet now in this area, when she just arrives, we meet a guy called Lucian,
He's Tamlin's sidekick.
Tamlin's sidekick, Tamlin 2.0,
Yes.
for the time being.
So Tampon and Sanix.
Yes. So, and he's got like this weird metal eye that's constantly whirring.
Rotating.
And if I hear the words, his golden eye word, one more time.
Because of course, in
This
my
woman's
head,
got no more words. Like, the writing is just,
it sounds like a
So
printer
repetitive.
in my head. It goes
yeah, like an old dot matrix.
Yes.
And it's just, anyway.
She does
So-
not know how to use a dictionary. Do not judge.
Yeah, so, well, neither does Feyre, so. So Lucian is trying very hard to get Feyre to fall in love with Tamlin because he knows the story. But they are, with part of the curse, they can't tell her what's happened. So they're having to, like, kind of roundabout the ways explain why everybody here has the stupid mask stuck on their face. And she's just not very smart, so.
But Tamlin also has a vicious temper, and he's not making himself very
Yeah,
lovable.
he's very quick to anger.
Mm.
And he's also not very smart. I'm sorry.
He can read, but he's also still
yeah,
not very
yeah,
smart.
he can read, but he's still not very smart, and it just proves that reading has nothing to do with Feyre's lack of intelligence.
But then we figure out why we're supposed to love him, because he gives her paint,
Yes.
and he tells her to paint to her heart's content,
and she paints.
and she paints.
And I've got this, I love to think, because I'm not very good at painting. I can draw fine, I'm not very good at painting. And in my mind, neither is Feyre. And I imagine these paintings that she's making that just look absolutely awful, and everybody's going, wow, good job.
Would be better than anything I can come up with.
We should try.
We should try.
I am literate at least, but I
You're
cannot paint.
literate.
You're literate.
Paint with words.
Yes.
Yes. But anyway, so she paints and she carries on, and he starts to take her like walks around the spring court, and I feel like my allergies are acting up just talking about this place. And he takes her to like this beautiful spring. The water is actually starlight, and they go swimming and whatever. And she starts to go, "Oh, maybe he's not so horrible,"
Mm-hmm.
and kind of slowly starts falling in love. And we have to talk about Callan Mai,
Yes.
At least that's a cool name.
Fire Knight. So everybody tells her, this is how intelligent this woman is. Everybody tells her,
Stay
stay in your freaking room. Do not leave.
Do not.
Do not look out the window. Just stay in your room.
She yeets out.
She
Of course.
yeets herself out of that house so damn fast.
As soon as she can, she runs.
And she runs. She doesn't know what Fire Knight is. Suppose neither do we at this point. But she gets there and she's trying to sneak around, the only human in amongst all these fairies.
Because of course that would not stick out like a sore thumb.
And gets surrounded by 3 guys who are really itchy.
And according to them, she smells like the most delicious barbecue on a summer's evening.
Yes.
And they would like to have a taste.
Yes. And then she is rescued by, in her words, the most handsome man she had ever seen.
But let's just say she said that about Tampon 2
She
pages
said that
ago.
about Tampon 2 pages ago.
So
So in comes tall, dark hair, blue eyes, tattoos, the usual, walks up behind her and says, "There you are, I've been looking for you." And she's just like, percolator. And he kind of...
remind me, I actually own one. Remind me to chuck it in the bin when we're done.
So she...
Would it help if we say that she's really more of a dripping faucet because it never stops?
It never stops. It never stops. This girl is like on that puberty
There's a
high.
tip.
Constant.
That's mine.
So anyway, that's all we see of this guy basically. He tries to talk to her and she's just like, "I'm here looking for Tamlin." Like, but she doesn't, obviously she lies. Says that she's there with 2 other women and he's like, "No, you're not." So she manages to escape this dude, and then
So-
Lucian sees her.
So is this dude Rysand?
Rysand.
Mhm.
Okay, I've heard about Rysand.
Rysand.
But you're not supposed to know that.
You're
at
not
this point,
supposed
so
to
pretend
know
that
it's
you don't.
Rysand.
Pretend
I am
you
pretending.
two
Yeah,
are like
pretending.
Farah and you know nothing. And like
So-
Jon Snow.
And then Lucian sees her, magically appears next to her, grabs her, and hauls her ass back up to the house.
While his eye is worrying.
While his eye is whirring. Because Callan Mai is an orgy.
Yes.
It's an orgy.
Oh.
Straight up orgy. So Tamlin, infused with the spirit
Of the
goes
moon.
of the moon, goes into the cave, just releases the magic into the world, and then everybody else joins in. And it's a free-for-all. And that's why he didn't want her there, because he thought if he could smell her there, he wouldn't be able to control himself.
And it's essentially the purge, but in reverse, because they're making. people.
And it was really weird. So that's where we got. And then she's like, "Oh, well, maybe I should listen to people," and then just doesn't listen.
But doesn't Tamlin find her in the corridor and end up
Yes,
kissing
and then
her while
no,
he's still
he
infused
doesn't
with
kiss.
the-
He doesn't kiss her.
He
He bites her
Oh,
neck
yes!
and leaves a bruise.
Yeah, yes, but it's the spirit. Don't
It's
judge
the
the man.
spirit.
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit. It's not the man.
Mm-mm. You must love this
and he
man.
was all. It was so gross. He was right up next to her and he goes, "I could smell you there." It's just like,
You should shower.
Use
Farah.
deodorant.
Really, you should. Your
yeah.
hair might be clean, but the rest of you is not.
So it was very uncomfortable, but he ended up boinking a strange woman after raging that he couldn't find her after he could smell her. But yeah, that was awkward. And then
I think I put too much rosemary in here because I'm crunching it. I'm like a horse eating hay.
I'm trying
Okay,
to avoid.
I feel like I'm
the
talking
sticks.
too much, so Jen should go on about the cereal because I can't talk about the cereal.
I don't want to talk about the cereal.
What is this? What are we
So,
not speaking of?
The cereal is a forest creature. Is there a name for him, Jesse?
No,
Who
he's
is-
just the cereal. They are all cereal.
Yeah.
There's very few of them in the world, and they only speak truth.
Yes,
So she had heard from somewhere that if you could catch one,
but you have to catch it. You
you
can't
have
just
to you have to catch it.
with it, and they like to eat chicken, dead chicken.
Yeah, well, she's told that,
Yes.
But it's Yoda who likes KFC, yeah?
but large,
Big Yoda,
very
yes.
big, and basically all bone.
So
In what
skeletal,
sense?
Like he is made of bone.
Oh.
Or that's how they did, like he looks like he's made of bone. But you're supposed to catch them, and then you can ask them whatever questions you want,
And they have to tell you the truth.
and they have to tell you the truth. But if they get free, they're going to eat you.
Yeah.
So she goes and asks Lucian, who's also very intelligent,
Very smart.
how do I catch a cereal? And he tells her, well, you take a freshly slaughtered chicken and you lay a noose. Or first he says, well, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that if you take a freshly slaughtered chicken to the birch trees in the west and whatever. So she goes and she grabs a freshly slaughtered chicken and some rope, and she sets up a noose for this thing in the forest and catches one, which is apparently very difficult, they say.
But yet she manages on her first try.
Manages
Often-
It was
on
her
her first try.
it was her smell that lured it in.
Maybe,
I
maybe.
presume.
But anyway, she catches the cereal, who tells her some answers, and one of the answers is stay with the High Lord. Stay with the High Lord.
And she goes, yes,
she
so this
goes,
is stamp
"Oh,
of approval now. I must live
Yes,
with the Wolfman.
I must now immediately boink Tamlin.
Yeah.
Is basically what's going through her mind.
Percolator
Vol-
starts
vol-
up
The
again.
percolator starts up again.
So she only listens to what people tell her when they tell her to boink someone.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay,
Basically.
okay.
So anyway, she gets some answers from him. The stay with the High Lord was like the most important, and he told her, no, you can't go back to the humans. She caught it trying to get to go back to the humans, trying to get an answer on how.
Mm.
And they hear some weird noises. She shoots an arrow to let it go out of the trap, and then like fighting ensues, and her and Tamlin
Do they think?
fight these things. After Lucian had said, I might just be nearby that area tomorrow, and if I maybe hear a scream, I might come and help. He didn't come and help.
Because Lucian is a coward, really.
Lucian is.
But can you
I don't
blame
know how
him?
I feel about him.
He got his eyes scooped out. Do not judge the man.
He's got one eye left. You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
If we had two eyes worrying, we might not have finished the book.
Oh fuck no. Fuck no. Anyway,
So then I cannot remember how. I haven't read these books in quite a while. Somehow things happen that they end up under the mountain, and Feyre must now undergo 3 trials to free Tampon.
well, she realizes that she loves him, and he realizes that he loves her, and he also realizes, hey, next week is the end of the 49 years,
So we have to make a
you
plan now.
go back to the human people because I love you, because that's very smart.
Very nice.
Instead of waiting
Very
2 more
cutesy,
days,
very demure.
Instead of waiting 2 more days for her to go, oh, I love you too, curse broken. But that would ruin the story.
Yeah, of course.
Also, at some point in between all of this, my timeline is all messed up. I've read so
even
many
mine.
books.
I don't know.
Reese shows up at the spring court.
Oh yes.
Well, first they find a head on top of a fountain
Oh yeah.
as like a little, here's a present for you from Rhysand.
So we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes. So, and they're all like, oh, they're horrible, evil people in the night court. They're all terrible.
The
and they murder
monster.
people. Monsters. Anyway, and then he shows up, and they try and hide Feyre from him by using magic. And Lucian basically just squashes her up against a wall. Like, that's all the magic I see is he squashes her against. And Reese is being Reese. And he can smell her. And
Of course he can.
of course,
she doesn't
it's
wash
so
ever.
gross. It's so gross. All of the smelling and scenting and oh my god.
And the things that they can scent, like they can scent the percolator when it starts up.
Yes, they can scent the percolator. So
Ugh.
Reese looks at the table and he goes, 3 plates, 2 people.
Because Reese is quite smart. Reese is
Reese
the smartest
Reese
man
is the
in this.
only smart
The
person in
only
these books.
smart person. Well, yeah, the other 2 are not stupid, but I think he's the smartest. It's fair.
Yeah, but he's the only one with the brain. So he
Yes.
looks at these 3 places and he goes, "Where's your guest?" And then he finds Feyre, and basically just makes Tamlin nearly want to. I don't know, what do they do in these books?
Boink.
Release themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, he gets all like, showing off his powers with his claws in her brain and.
And then Reese does his counter move, and Tamlin is not up to that. He's not.
Yeah,
he
I
cannot-
think Tamlin knows that he would lose a fight there.
Yes, because
So-
he is smart in some
Yeah.
aspects.
So anyway, this is the point where Feyre realizes that the guy that saved her on Callan Mai
Is this man
is the monster of the Night Court.
who chops off people's heads and leaves them confounded?
Kinky.
Oh, and also in the beginning of the book, when she just got to the spring court, there was a fairy on the table in the basement that had its wings chopped off.
Oh yeah, they brought it in and
Yes, and the fairy was dying, and it was going on about, she took my wings! And now she thinks, because she cannot differentiate between she and he, that it was not Tamlin, Rhysand, who has chopped off this fairy's wings. Yes. Because we chop off wings and we chop off heads. That's what we do.
yes. So anyway, she's now already got this hatred of Rhysand imprinted on her through Tamlin.
Okay, so she's gonna boink him because if we hate someone, we gotta boink them.
Eventually.
Of course.
Eventually.
But that's
Eventually.
only in book 2.
Yes, book 2. So there was so much shaboinking, you lose track.
But
Yeah.
chapter 55 was the best one.
So yeah, as far as spice goes, book 1 was a boiled potato.
Yes.
Book 2 was lightly salted. By the time you get to book 5,
The flames are skyrocketing. The
Yes,
potatoes
wow.
have been burned to a
yes.
crisp.
So anyway, he sends her back to the human world. She's there for like a couple of days, and then goes, I hate it here.
Doesn't she also find out that Tamlin has been looking after her family? They have now
Yeah,
upgraded.
yeah.
you know?
He'd sent like a bunch of money, and he healed.
Install the shower.
Yeah, basically. Sent them enough money that they could buy their own shower.
And they built a nice little house. And Nesta
Yeah.
is still being a bitch because we have to hate Nesta.
Yeah, we have to hate Nesta.
Even though she's the only decent sister, we have to hate
She's
Nesta.
the only sister with the brain. We have to hate Nesta. We'll get to Nesta's story in book 5.
My favorite.
How many of these
My
things
favorite.
are there?
5. The last one is about Nesta, who quickly became my favorite character.
You enjoyed that one.
I love
Yes,
Nesta.
luckily my ADHD is tuned so finely that I could zone out for all of the sex scenes, and then just zone back in when it went back to normal.
I appreciated the wingspan. I was happy.
I don't want to hurt you.
But it cannot fit, but we'll try.
It's not gonna fit. Anyway, we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
And can we just for a second, what's his name? Asriel casually walking in, wanting to eat his dinner. What just happened here?
God, you could smell it. Anyway, no, we're jumping way ahead of ourselves.
Fresh coffee?
No, thank you.
No.
No. So anyway, she ends up under the mountain after running back to the fairy world after thinking, oh, but he loves me. I have to go save him from the blight or whatever they were calling Amarantha.
I gotta check, what with all the boinking going on, I have to make sure that the mountain is an actual mountain,
It's an
not
actual,
a person.
it's an
So-
actual mountain. Actual mountain.
No,
So she ends up under everyone.
Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she goes back. She realizes, Tamlin loves me. I have to go and help him. And then Alice, who we haven't covered, but basically her maid,
Oh yeah.
tells her the whole story, and she's like, I have to do something. And Alice is like, you're fucking dumb.
And Alice says that she's not gonna stick around for this. She's gonna run away.
Yeah, Alice
Bye-bye.
basically says, I am leaving.
I am leaving. You should too. But
If you want to die, go for it, but
But
do
I
it
don't wanna
without
die.
me. And tells her how to get there. So Alice was very helpful there. So she goes to Under the Mountain, is immediately captured.
because not
Immediately.
smart woman.
Not very smart, not very
And
good
everyone
at
can
sneaking.
smell her from a mile.
Basically. They can smell the percolation. She's captured immediately, brought before Amarantha, who's then like, you know, the fuck is this? And I forgot when Rhysand saw her in the dining room in the 3 plates or whatever, he asked her who she is and she gave him a fake name.
Mm.
Not a fake name, a name of an actual person from the village where she lived.
Of course, of course.
Claire Bedder. So Amarantha looks at this stringy, skinny little white thing that's dropped at the front of her feet and goes, Rhys, who's this? And Rhys is like, never seen her a day in my life.
I don't know.
Don't know. And she looks up and she says, I thought you said that was the girl that Tamlin had. And Feyre looks behind her and there is Claire Bedder,
Pinned to the wall.
pinned to the wall, tortured to death.
Casually dripping blood on the floor.
Casually dripping blood on the floor.
Percolation in a new sense.
Yes. Just ripped apart. Because apparently Rhysand didn't know that the fake name that he gave her was an actual person. The fake name that she gave him was an actual person, and he sent these people looking for what he thought was a fake name.
person. Mm.
Brought back an actual girl and they tortured her to death. So, yes.
And they quietly
I
made a
asked myself
tapestry out of her.
Yeah, they kind of,
the
she
wall
became,
art
yeah.
Under the Mountain is
Yeah,
wonderful.
it was wall art.
Mm.
So, yeah, anyway, Feyre's like, I'm here for Tamlin. And Tamlin's just sitting there. For the whole duration Under the Mountain.
Tamlin does not move.
Would not look at her, did not say a word. And I was just like,
You are a sucker.
yeah, I mean, do something. Can do something. Anyway, long story short, she's told, well, if you want to free them, you can do 3 tasks or solve my riddle. And I will free the Spring Court. And Feyre's like, fine, give me the riddle. And she gives her the riddle. I think I still sent it to you.
You did, yeah.
Yes. And Feyre spends 3 months trying to solve this riddle.
And the answer was, what,
Love.
Yes.
3 months. And during those 3 months, she was supposed to have a trial every month. So the first one comes up. Well, first they fuck her up. Just completely beat her to pulp. And then throw her in the dungeon.
Did she fall in love with any of them?
No. Thank goodness.
That's not
So
typical.
anyway, Lucian arrives.
Originality.
Yeah, Lucian arrives, heals her, patches up her broken nose, fixes broken arms, whatever. And then says, cool, bye.
Oh yeah, the visit from the Night Court comes later.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So first it was Lucian.
Uh-huh.
So then she goes into her first task, which was
The
a
Mitten
battle
Guard
with the
worm.
Mitten Guard worm. Which was basically, if you've ever seen SpongeBob, that giant worm that chases them.
But it's got lots and lots of teeth in
Yes,
lots and
lots
lots of rows.
Yeah. And through somehow way on her own, she manages to build like a pit with broken bones as stakes and goes back and she figures out that it's blind.
But it can smell her,
too.
Of course it can smell her.
Covers herself in its own poop so that it can't smell her. Goes looking for it, cuts her hand, runs back, launches herself over the bone pit so that it would fall into the bones and die.
Because of course she can jump 50 feet.
Yeah, she can jump very far.
She can.
She can jump very fast.
She
So
should have participated in athletics.
she manages, the worm dies, but she's got like a piece of bone through her arm. She gets up and she looks at Amarantha and she takes the bone that she had and hurls it at her and splatters her with poop.
The defiance.
The defiance, and everyone's like, ooh. And Rhys is like, mmm.
Nothing
So-
like a bit of poop throwing.
Nothing like a bit of poop throwing.
Hey,
So
that's how apes find their lovers. Don't judge. Don't judge.
Is that what fire is?
Yes.
Monkey,
So anyway,
monkey
turns out
brain.
Monkey see, monkey do.
everybody had been
monkey
making
percolates.
everybody had been making bets on how long it would take for her to die, and Reese was the only one that bet that she would win, so he made like a lot of money off of her.
Not that he
She's
needs money.
she's basically a horse at this point.
Poor quality.
She gets-
skinny rescue.
She gets thrown back into the dungeon
With the bone still in her arm.
with the bone still in her arm,
Still
and she's
smelling
sitting
of
there,
worm
still
poop.
smelling of worm poop.
But it's an upgrade from what she used to smell like.
They can't smell her anymore. So, yeah, she's waiting for somebody to come and help her because she can't help herself.
No.
She's very,
Utterly
yeah.
incompetent. She's so broken. No?
Mm. So anyway, Rhysand shows up and she's like spits on him or something, and he's just like, really?
Too.
What? So anyway, he's just like, you're gonna die if I don't help you, so either I help you or you die. And she's like, oh, what do I have to give you for helping me? And he goes, you know what, just 1 week with me a month. And she's like, no, Tamlin, oh my heart.
I love Devlin.
And he's like, 1 week a month. So eventually she gives in because he says, you're going to die. Lucian's not coming. We find out after this because he was being tortured and beaten for helping her the first time, or for something.
Yeah, Amarantha does not need a
Amarantha's
reason.
she's very fond of beating people up.
But she did not make wall out from him yet.
Yeah, not yet. We say that like it's going to happen.
Would have been cool though. It would have saved
Anyway.
us a lot of Lucianing.
She obliges, and he grabs her arm and says it's a bargain. Whereas Alice told her never make a bargain
Never
with the
make a
fairy,
bargain.
and she just made a bargain with him. Grabs her arm and goes, it's a bargain, and she wakes up a couple of seconds later and her arm isn't broken anymore, and she's healed and she's clean, and she looks down and her whole arm is covered in tattoos. He's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, in my country,
That is what we do.
if you make a bargain, we tattoo it on you.
So this man is obviously fond of a bargain because he's covered in tattoos.
Covered in tattoos. Anyway, the next trial comes around. She's now like, oh no, I've just made a bargain with Reese. The next trial comes around long time after.
The first one.
Yeah, it's a month in between. So anyway, a month later, she's going in for the second one. And this one is the hardest of them all. It is reading.
And she cannot read.
She can't read. Somebody told Amarantha she can't read. So it's a riddle that she has to read. And then it's got 3 levers marked 1, 2, 3. And she has to pick the right number. That's the answer to the riddle, and pull the lever to free Lucian, who's on the other side of this pit. And the wall is coming down and it's covered in
spiked
spikes.
wall.
Typical Tomb Raider type spiked ceiling.
And if it comes down, it's going to chop him in half. Nice.
Yeah, it's going to smush them both,
Yes.
essentially. And she can't read.
Mm.
And she's staring at this wall with the writing on, and Lucian is going, just pick one! Like, panic. And if it wasn't for Reese, they would have died, because she went to pick one, because she's got this whole reasoning of 2 is the best number, because that's like me and Tamlin, and 1 is alone, and 3 is too
Oh, that
many.
hurts. That hurts.
So she goes for number 3, and her arm starts burning where the tattoo is. And she looks at Reese, who's not even looking at her, and she goes for the other lever, and it burns again, and she goes for that one, and it doesn't burn. And it takes her 5 minutes of going in between them to realize
figure
that this
out.
burning actually means something.
Imagine clicker training this woman.
No. She pulls the lever and saves them. Yay!
Amarantha is not happy.
Amarantha's not
angry.
happy.
Reese is happy.
Reese is happy. Yeah, Reese
But he may
is-
not look happy, but he is.
Yeah, and Tamlin is still just sitting there. Anyway, another month goes past, not much interesting happening. And then the last task.
The final trial.
Final trial.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh wait, in between all of this,
Oh yeah.
she's most got this bargain with Reese.
Ah.
So he goes to fetch her every night, paints her like little swirls.
Oh yeah.
Puts her in, you cannot even call it a dress. It's a strip of sheer silk down the front and back. You can see everything, completely painted from head to toe. Gives her for some fairy wine and says, dance for me.
darling.
And she is drunk out of her mind every night, dancing in front of him.
And also sitting on his lap.
Yes, and
casually.
sitting on his lap.
And pretending that she does not like it, but we all know she
Yeah.
does.
So anyway, the reason for the paint was so that he could see if anybody touches her.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one night where he's there.
It's the final night before
Yeah,
the
the
trial,
last
isn't
night
it?
before the trial. She's there, all painted up, and Reese is talking to someone, and Tamlin looks at her and goes,
Now is the time.
very conspicuously towards a door, and she kind of slips away and goes in the door, and he just immediately tongue down her throat.
Even though he hasn't spoken to her
Hasn't
in 3
spoken
months.
to her in 3 months. Just immediately, I want to shaboink this girl right now.
But you have to. You can't blame
And
him. It's been 3 months.
What irritated me about this was Lucian and Reese went to help, even though they knew they were going to get in shit, they were helping her.
Yeah.
They were there because they cared for her. All Tamlin wanted was a shaboink. He not once asked, "Are you okay?
How are you doing?
I am so sorry that you're in this." Nothing. Just
Boing boing.
go, now clap these cheeks. That was all he had on his mind, and I hated it because not even "Are you okay? I'm so sorry." Nothing. Just get rid of this piece of silk. Who cares about the paint on your body?
No.
He's
Not
already
me.
pulling his pants down. Like, without even saying a word to her, he's already pulling his belt off.
And she's percolating. She's happy.
She's very happy. She's just, their relationship is all physical. There's nothing in between them.
Well, that doesn't sound like you need an intellect to.
So anyway,
She's using what she got, okay?
using what she's got. So
Just before they can commence.
yeah, before they can actually commit to this, Reese just randomly shows up in the room. And says, "Well, isn't this interesting?" And Tamlin immediately goes, "There's a lot of growling in these books, and it's weird.
Very,
know.
very
It's really
weird.
weird.
The growling.
There's so much growling." And Tamlin is like, his hackles are raised. He's like, "I'm gonna fight you." And Reese is like, "Look at yourself, you dumb bitch." And he's just covered in paint, and she is messed up. And he's like, "Just look at yourself."
And think about
First-
this.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Can you? I don't think you
Yes.
can, but try.
Yeah, try. So he says, "You've got 2 seconds to put your belt back on and pull your pants up." So Tamlin does, and he does his little, and Tamlin is clean. Feyre is still messed up, but Tamlin walks out, and Reese is busy looking at Feyre, and then just slams into her,
Pins her against the
pins
wall.
her against the wall, kisses her,
Tongue down
and
her
she's
throat
like,
immediately
"Ew,
also.
no, I don't want this."
But
And a second later, Tamlin and Amarantha walk in, and Amarantha's like stooping to humans. But anyway, the paint is now on him, so he saved Feyre from Tamlin being a dumbass.
and from being turned into wall art by Amarantha.
Yes. And then we get to. And then we get to task number 3. And she gets there, and Amarantha's all, "Oh, you haven't solved my riddle. It's such a pity. It's such a beautiful answer." And we all know Feyre's dumb.
Yes.
So she brings out 3 Fae with bags over their heads. And each Fae has a knife. And Feyre has to stab each one of them in the chest.
But she has to remove the bags and look at them before
Yeah.
she does it.
She goes up, they pull the bag off, and it's like a young dude. She's never seen him before in her life. And
Tells her his
Amarantha's
sob
like,
story.
"Kill all 3 of them, and, bargain fulfilled. I'll end the curse, whatever." So she goes, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this."
I'm not a monster.
Stabs the dude.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, dude. Moves on to the next one, and it's a woman. Female, sorry, side note. The way they use the term male made me so uncomfortable.
It does, because it
It's like,
gives
I
me
know
the
they're
ick.
not human, but it dehumanizes. But it gave me the. I understand why it is, because they're not men.
Yeah.
They're not humans. They're not men. But any other word. Anyway, she stabs the lady, the female, while this female was praying. Sorry, allergies. And she gets to the third one, and she's already now like, oh my gosh, I'm a murderer. Gets to the third one, and it's Tamlin.
Because
And
she
she's
did not...
looking at Tamlin, and Tamlin's looking at her, and she's looking at Tamlin.
Mhm.
And Amarantha's looking at them, and she's looking at Amarantha and looking at Tamlin, and she's like, what the fuck?
Because she did not notice when she came in that Tamlin was no longer
Yeah, because Tamlin was sitting there.
where he was.
Tamlin was sitting there. She
Mm.
still noticed Tamlin sitting there.
Yes.
Turns out it was the Atter in disguise.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the Atter is like weird bat wings. He becomes more important later on.
But it's the bad bat wings. The other guys have good
Yeah.
bat wings. There's
Yeah.
a difference.
So, and then she remembers somebody saying, for a man with a stone of heart, you're becoming
Hearts of stone.
a heart of stone, you're becoming really soft. And she goes, oh, he's got a heart of stone, and stabs him. And nothing happens. Very dramatic. Nothing happens. And she looks at Amarantha, and she's looking at Tamlin, and nothing's happening. And she goes, I didn't say I would break the curse immediately. And then starts beating Feyre. Like with her magic,
Necessary at
just
this
slamming her around, breaking all of her bones. And in between this somewhere, something in her mind says, love. And Amarantha stops, and Feyre goes, the answer to your riddle is love.
And then promptly dies.
And then Amarantha snaps her neck. But the agreement was, if she solved the riddle, the spell would be broken immediately. So Tamlin launches into beast mode, pins Amarantha up against the wall, and rips her throat out. Just casually rips her throat
For
out.
me, I was wondering whether he was going to rip her throat out or pull off his belt. Anything seems possible.
Anything seems possible. We can add some necrophilia to the bestiality. So anyway, while she was beating Feyre up, Rhys was trying to save her, and Lucian was trying to save her, and Tamlin was just, I've been stabbed. So when she broke the curse, Lucian and Rhysand were like broken on the ground somewhere, almost knocked over my gin. And
Do you still have gin?
yes, I drink slowly.
Yeah, me normally too, but...
And Tamlin goes in, grabs her by the throat, is like ripping her apart. Rhysand gets up, grabs a sword. As Tamlin comes away with the throat, the sword goes in through her head and pins her up against the wall.
These people have a thing about pinning people up against
Yes,
walls.
it's very strange. So anyway, curse broken, but Feyre's dead.
Oh no!
Oh,
What
no.
a loss to the world.
But then we get like this shift, like while all of this is happening, where Feyre is seeing what's happening through Rhys's eyes, through the little the bargain. So he's like basically keeping her safe in his brain, somewhere. And then they all go and they like, Tamlin's like, oh no, holding up her broken body. And then all of the High Lords come around and they give like this little bit of gold and bring her back to life. But now she's a fairy.
She has been transformed.
She's got to learn how to read.
She still can't read.
But she's got pointy ears now.
But she's got pointy ears now and her legs are a little bit longer.
How's the smell?
I don't know.
Well, she's been dead, so I would assume not much better.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody's happy. They seal off the mountain. She's talking to Rhys on a balcony, and he looks at her and goes, and then disappears.
Literally. Bye.
Yeah, just vanished into the ether.
And then the book is finished.
And then the book is finished.
And we're supposed to be wondering why was he going...
Yeah.
So, how many stars out of 5? Chase?
For main character intelligence or for story overall?
For story overall, book 1.
Like a 3.
But you did enjoy it.
Towards the end, maybe. The
You were-
rest
you
of
were-
it was very tedious.
But you were quite invested, weren't you?
By the end, it took a while
Mm.
to get into it, just because it's very different from what I normally read. It's not I'm not a romance reader, so I don't really get excited by the little
No percolating.
no percolating.
But the pinning up against walls does work sometimes.
Jen, how many stars?
I would give it a 4 purely because I know what's coming and I like resand.
You are allowed to be absolutely subject.
And what's coming is not only Tamlin. Yes.
There is so much coming. There is so much coming.
Where do we start?
So what's the hype about these books?
Clapping cheeks.
No, it's in this case it's not wingspan. In book 1 is not the wingspan because there are no really wings.
Yeah,
So do you think it's the Beauty and the Beast thing?
I think so. I mean, for somebody who one of my favorite movies as a child was Beauty and the Beast.
Even me, the talking.
Yeah, this is just a
cutlery
step
and-
up.
Yes,
This is just a step up.
or a step down.
Or a step
depending
down. Yeah, depending on your intelligence level.
You just insulted a lot of our 3 viewers.
At
Yeah.
least Belle could read.
At least Belle could read. Yeah, this is basically A Court of Thorns and Roses is Beauty and the Beast, but Belle is illiterate.
Exactly.
So she's got
And the Beast has anger issues
and a mask,
and a mask. That's it. Those are the only differences.
and he can smell her.
And he can spell.
I don't. I don't think Belle stank quite
So-
as much.
Would you recommend it to me?
Yes, if only to get to Silver Flames.
Yes.
Would I read it?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
No, we know you.
No,
We
you
will
wouldn't.
give you
I'm-
the brief summary.
I'm illiterate. I
The world's
actually,
first illiterate
I-
author.
actually can't read.
That's why I didn't read. I read the audiobook.
So what do we do next?
So the next book was called Wings
Are
and
we-
Ruin.
are we gonna
No,
go-
it wasn't Wings and Ruin. It was
Mist and Fury.
Mist and Fury. Like a math.
Because
They're
that
all
does
good.
not at all sound dodgy.
There's a lot of mything in it.
Yo, how
Myth
much
diving
gin is
in
in
it.
this glass?
Should we perhaps leave the rest of the series because we are running quite long now
Yeah,
and continue the rest of the books in another video?
we can do that.
I think so. So
Because when we get to the last book, there's a lot to talk about.
so we're all a bit out of our comfort zones with this.
Can I just chip in
Hmm.
and say that I feel one of you had a vendetta against me and poured an entire bottle of gin into my glass?
Well, you're not driving home, so
I can't. It wouldn't be safe.
Because of the drinking.
yes.
Well, yes, that too. But also because Brinkley bought his license in a lucky packet.
Brinkley's our guide dog.
yes.
He's at our feet begging for gin.
Gin is not good for dogs.
Especially not if they
mine
bought their
is- mine
license.
is-
No, but luckily
pretty bad
Genevieve
too.
has a whole pocket full of sweets, and I think that's what he's actually after.
Well,
Yes.
if you're gonna drink that, you're gonna be Genevieve.
Better than Guinevere.
So I thought we should chat a bit about what we normally read because we've taken the dive with reading some
Romance.
stuff that's currently popular.
Yes.
Ches, so you did read fantasy. You're very much into fantasy.
I've been a fantasy reader pretty much my whole life. I started reading full novels when I was 7. I was one of those weird kids.
We were all
Um,
those weird kids.
yeah,
We're
that's
still-
why we're here.
Nothing
Weird
much
kids.
has changed.
So the
Slut
first the first novel that my mom bought me was The Magic Faraway Tree. And I loved that book, and I read it every night before I went to bed, and I read it at school, and I read it everywhere. And from there, my love for fantasy just kind of grew. And there was a period where I read like anything that was put in front of me. I read a lot of horror books, trying to find your place in what you like. And then I got to high school, and my cousin Terry gave me a book by David Eddings.
Mhm.
The series was the Belgariad. It was the first book. I read it, and I just spiraled into this love of high fantasy. So I think the only reason I can tolerate the books that we're reading at the moment is because it's based in fantasy, and then there's a romance element around it. So I love me some David Eddings, Terry Pratchett. I did kind of enjoy the Terry Goodkind books, although they were a bit too.
I have a suggestion.
There was, yeah.
At one point, we should do Going Postal by Terry Pratchett.
I love
I
anything
loved it.
Terry Pratchett. I love Terry Pratchett.
It's been a thought in my mind to read Terry Pratchett for like 20 years, and I've never done
He's an
it.
excellent author.
One of
Mainly
my
because no
favorite-
one's taught me to read yet.
Yeah, what I love about him is he's got a very high writing style. It's very well written, but the stories are so silly.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm swinging to these where the writing is extremely silly, but
There's a story.
the story is good. I mean, if I have to hear about Farah's watery bowels again,
No!
every chapter,
No!
every time something happens, my bowels turned watery.
No!
So I think like the juxtaposition
Maybe
is
that's
good for
the
me.
smell.
Maybe that's the
We solved the mystery.
We
Oh,
solved it at
man.
Well
last.
done. The curse has been broken. Congratulations, ladies.
That's where it is. So, yeah, that's where I am. I'm from a fantasy background. I'm attempting to write, when my ADHD allows, a high fantasy novel or series of novels. The way the story is growing,
Yes.
it's a lot of work, and I procrastinate when I don't know what to do. So the story comes. I want to write when I'm doing stuff like driving and working, and I get these ideas of, oh, I should write that down, and I can't because I'm literally driving.
If you, what's the word? It's gone. Have you considered, there it is, a moment of brightness,
In the usual darkness.
making notes?
I have 4
Like,
notebooks.
no, I mean like voice noting
I
yourself, recording.
Cannot handle the sound of my own voice.
Understandable. I struggled with that. Not with your voice, with my own. It's a thing.
It's a thing. So, but Rosa has given me a deadline, so 2 years. Hopefully, I get it done before then.
2 years for a
If I
rough
d-
draft. We
yes,
won't
if I
pressure you
don't-
because
if
this
I
is a
don't-
huge job
Yeah,
that
if
you're
I
tackling.
don't break myself, because
Haven't
there
all
is
the
a lot of
horses
death.
you've ridden done that already?
No, this is going to break me emotionally. I think.
But it's delightful crying over your
We
own
love
characters.
crying over our
Oh,
own
the
creations.
crying is so good.
It's the best part.
So yeah, well, we'll get there. The story is growing.
Have you ever, both of you, have you ever done the Narnia series?
No.
I read some of it.
Oh, I loved it as a child. I read fantasy as a child. Sorry, Jen, I'm beating you up.
That's all right.
Yeah. No, I did. I read some of it, but I never had the actual books. Most of the books that I read growing up were gifted to me, or I borrowed them from my mother or my cousin.
It's light. It's fun. I really,
we
really
should go
loved them.
through
My
them.
favorite was The Horse and His Boy.
I've heard of it.
The horse is called Bree. It's short for a longer name.
Jeez.
I think it was Bree, he, hinny, hoo, hey, ha.
Ooh. All I hear is cheese, which we're going to dig into a bit because Rosa makes amazing cheese. This is a shameless plug. Please buy her cheese.
And my books, please. And Jen's.
Yes.
Oh,
So, Jen, what do you read?
I am a sucker for romance. Not
We know.
necessarily romance featuring Wingspan, but you know, that too good work. I love historical fiction, which is good for Rosa because you know, she writes historical fiction, and you should absolutely read it. If you have not, you should.
Jen was my
Yes.
editor for the first 2 books.
So if there are spelling errors, it is utterly my fault.
That's
it
okay.
is
You can't see the
because-
letters.
True, I do. I'm illiterate. Like Farah, but unlike Farah, I am quite smart.
You're actually very
But
smart.
you've also done your fantasy stint, haven't you? Not the writing, the reading. You've read these.
I have read these, and I have read all Sarah J. Maas's books.
Mm-hmm.
Crescent City, A Throne of Glass, and also this. Crescent City is my favorite, but it's because it features an angel with chocolate slab abs and very gorgeous
Hunt
words.
is for another video.
Yes, Hunt is for another video,
Hunt
but
is
we
for
just
another video.
have to squish him in here because he's pretty.
He's very important in our lives.
Definitely, he has taken them over. But also, Johnny Riley has also taken over my life and my vocal cords. So if
It's
I
a
slip into Irish at one point,
Short shit.
It's the accent that
hey,
hits you,
hey,
isn't it?
I too am a short shit. Do not discriminate.
I think we're all short. We're all quite short.
True.
That's
That's
okay.
why we're sitting on bar stools, make us
Yes,
look taller.
just so that we can reach the camera.
And then I think I started with those beautiful Reader's Digest condensed books. We had a whole shelf full of
I've
them.
never read one. I've got a bunch that people give me because
No, man, you got to start. They've got wonderful books in them.
I collect old books, and my
Actually, I
mind,
haven't read this one.
my thinking of old is like my old books are like 1930 and before. Are
Does
my
it?
favorite old books, and people think I want any book that they don't want because it's old. So somebody gave me a whole stack of Reader's Digest because they heard I collect old books, and they're just sitting in a box. I don't know what to do with it because I'm not putting them next to my 1904 copy of
No,
Tale of Two
not-
Cities.
not
They
worthy.
do not belong on the shelf.
Speaking of people giving you just any old book, I recently got this and I read it, and you know what? It was surprisingly good. It's not what it looks like.
That looks suspicious. It is called Toy.
It's a naked blonde girl sucking a giant lolly, sitting with a teddy bear, and she's not 5. She's very much not
says,
5.
If you fell for candy, you'll flip for toy. Soon to
It's-
be a major film.
It was
Oh, wow.
actually kind of endearing. There's a whole lot
Okay.
of boinking in it, but
See,
it
I'm
was
not here
not
for the
explicit.
boinking.
It was not explicit, or I would not have read it. It was kind of endearing. It had an ending that made you think, "Oh, that's kind of cute."
Okay.
We should actually do that one point. Just chat about it. But yeah,
Okay.
we were speaking about what we used to read, how we started with this thing. And now I need someone to give me a mental leg up because I'm stuck.
I'm not very picky about what I read. Like this past week, I read my first Stephen King. I read Misery, and it was good. He's an excellent writer.
But
It's
his
not.
endings are terrible.
I don't know. I haven't gotten to
So-
the ending yet.
So would you? Is it the cocaine?
No, you probably.
Probably yes.
My husband is a big reader of Stephen King. He loves Stephen King, Dean Koontz, those types of writers. I have not been able to get into one of those books.
I've looked at Dean
I can't.
Koontz and his last name put me off. Not reading that, thank you.
Justin enjoys those kind of books. It's not for me, but I mean, he also doesn't read my books. So we've got a nice clear delineation between these are my books and those are your books,
yours.
and we don't touch them.
There's a very definite difference usually between what our men read and what we read. Like,
Definitely.
I read all my manuscripts to my husband, and he very, very much enjoyed A Place to Land. And A Tale of Wild Geese, he said, it's very good, but it has too many emotions. I don't want to read about emotions.
Everything that I read is about emotion. And I love the
Yeah,
emotion.
that's it for me.
feel.
It's not what the story is about
It's
or who wrote
the
it.
feelings.
It's the feeling that it gives me.
Yes.
And that's what the ACOTAR series, by the time I got to the last book, I was a little bit broken.
Dude, she
She's
so
got
not
a
the
way.
greatest
Yeah,
writer, but
she's
she
not a
makes
great
you
writer.
feel things.
Yeah, she's got a way to make you feel things. And I
Mary-
feel like that's the most important.
May I remind you of the cereal?
Not
We're not going to
everything-
talk about the surreal.
Not everything that we read have to be a literary masterpiece. You read for
Yeah,
enjoyment.
I read for the story.
Yeah, put the
Definitely.
toy away,
I'm
please.
putting the toy away. Yeah, I'm in it for the stories. That's
I
why
agree.
I love high fantasy, because these are stories that are brought up out of nothing. It's also why it's so difficult to write one. And I have a lot of admiration for somebody that can do that can build something like this out of nothing.
The world building in fantasy absolutely astounds
very
me. I would
difficult.
never touch it. I do not have the imagination to create a
I
whole
cannot
world.
write it either.
I like my whole world has been set up for me. All that I need to do is
Place your people
Put
in
the
it.
people
place
in
my
it.
people, do my
Yeah.
research.
Mm.
It's already there. I can just weave them into the fabrics of
prefer
what has
that too.
actually
And
happened.
that's what makes it difficult. I mean, with my book, I've got all of my I've got all of my people. They're telling me their story. I have to make a world to put
Create
them
the
in.
world.
Yeah, and I've got a vague sense of it, but it's very difficult to actually put on paper.
Yeah.
So, but we will get there. We'll get there. And if I become half the writer that David Eddings is, I'll be happy.
Well, I've heard your story. You've told it to me, and I want to read it. That I would make an exception for fantasy, and I would read that. It is good, and I
We're
love.
not going to oversell it because just now it comes out and it's terrible.
Oh, we edit it till it's up there.
Exactly.
Remember, editing is everything.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Um,
but we'll get it out within the next few months. I'll start sending drafts if I can.
yes.
I also want drafts.
Yes.
Yes.
She's a pretty decent editor.
Even though I am
Yeah.
not it
You know
according to
what's
certain
fun
people.
of Jen editing? She
Mm.
fangirls. She will pick up the little crumbs that you drop, and she will go to town on them, and it's
Have a field day.
I miss
Oh,
it
and there are so
much.
many crumbs in my story.
I miss
There
it
are so
so
many
much
crumbs.
on Red Cross Letters, not having the fangirling going on. My current editor is not.
A fangirl.
She's not a fangirl. She did love the book. But she's very stingy with feedback, and I miss it so much. Just
Oh.
those long
You could be
conversations.
one of my editors, Jan.
Yay!
Both of you are gonna have to help.
You will have a million sentences going, missing comma, put it back.
And she will fight you about it. She will fight
I've got
you.
a good grasp of punctuation. Don't worry.
Good girl.
Yes, I'm English like that.
You need some treats.
I am in an open relationship with commas, and we're both seeing other people.
Oh Lord,
The
no.
editor is always right.
At the end of the day,
Yes.
yeah.
I
You're
am being
basically
judged.
saying Genevieve is always right.
Of course.
I've learned something when you are edited. Sometimes you smile and you stay quiet.
Yes.
You do what you want.
I cannot wait.
And then she reads the book afterwards and screams at you.
I
Yes.
cannot wait to send you my book and break you to pieces.
I love being broken to pieces and stitched back together again.
Oh, there's no stitching.
Oh, that's okay too.
Actually, you should read Jen's book.
I
You
should. I should. I
You
must
will-
buy a copy from you.
Jolene, a mutual friend of ours, read it the other day. And we were talking about something completely different. And then she just snapped into this mode and she goes, "Tell Jen I'm going to hit her when I see her." And I knew. There's a chatter in there that will
There
will
was
do that to you.
another reader who told me that she's going to pull my fingernails out one by one and she hopes I walk into a tree.
Do you know what scares me
Mm.
about reading Jen's book? Is that I know what Jen reads. Now that I have read what Jen reads,
No, there's
I
no,
know
no
what
spice.
she reads.
There's
and
no
I am-
spice.
Okay,
there's,
because
there's no spice. Not in that one.
A second one, can I pitch you a little bit?
No, of course.
A second one, the series is not quite.
not quite.
So this one is not quite meant to be. The second one is not quite planned. And well, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the first chapter is the end of all things coffee.
Second.
The second. Aye, Mackenzie.
Yeah,
Mackenzie and her short
that's
skirts.
what's worried me because I'm not a romance reader. Generally I don't enjoy the romance
I don't write
in the books that I
Pure-
already read.
purely romance. There's
Oh.
there's a story surrounding it. It won't
Like-
make you cringe and die.
There's another one of my favorite book series. It's called the Night Angel series by Brent Weeks. The only decent author I know because he released all three at the same time.
That's cool.
Blessed Angel.
Honey, I could do the same, but then you'd have to wait
So-
till I'm 70.
I really enjoyed those books. What I didn't enjoy was there was almost a constant undertone of romance from like the second book onwards. And it kind of, after a while, it started to irritate me. Like, I loved the love blossoming It was beautiful, but I wanted the story. I wanted the meat and bones. I didn't want the.
I just poured gin out
The
all over
fluff.
myself and rosemary, but that's okay.
I'm sorry,
No,
but yeah, no, those were very good books. I would
Make it
highly
smell good.
recommend them. But there was.
Better than
Tampon will
Feyre.
track you.
I almost felt like the
No, you
romance
enjoy
in that book was
stinkiness.
a distraction to
Don't
the
start
story.
with the stinkiness. Sorry, Jez,
Yeah.
we're
No, sorry.
tossing
brain.
off in a different direction.
Yeah. So I've never been a big romance fan, and I'm now
I am.
tolerating it.
Very
I've
much.
got a question.
Mm.
How did you experience with your lack of interest in the romance part? How did you experience Wild Geese, my debut?
What I loved
Because
about
it's-
Wild Geese is it had my favorite elements of the romance, which was the
The
walks
start
down
of
the
all
lane. The little. It wasn't
The
just
old-fashioned
the
courtship.
old-fashioned courtship. That is
Love
what
it.
I loved about it. I loved that part of the romance. I don't want the sex and the dripping. I don't want that.
The
I want
percolating.
The percolating.
the love itself. For me,
I-
is the most important thing.
I
and
wondered
everything
because
around
that-
it is secondary.
That book is so very much the plot is very much the love story. It
Yes.
is about two people hoping to
Yes,
have a life together.
but that was it. It was the hope and the faith and growing into the direction. It wasn't just he's the most beautiful man I've ever seen. Drip, drip, drip. So, but also there was so much story around it that
What are you
the love.
thinking?
I'm sorry.
The love story was the story, and that was okay. And it wasn't just wingspan and this
I'll never.
drive to be together. There was this acceptance that I felt was really, really beautiful. Like when she was alone, she'd accepted it, and it came back, and it was like,
Thank you. That
It
gave
was
me
so-
the fuzzies.
it was beautiful because it's what it was meant to be.
And Albert Nell was meant to die.
Yes.
Spoiler!
Spoiler.
Spoiler,
We don't-
James.
He does not die. No, he
But-
was meant to, but he does not. And I wish he would because I hate him.
Anyway, it was necessary to the story. But yeah, for me, A Tale of Wild Geese, because it was meant to be a romance, but I don't know what I'm saying right now.
In Afrikaans, we differentiate between a romance and a romance novel. I'm not sure exactly if the difference is there in English, but a romance is your thinner little book. It's typically around 50,000 to 60,000 words.
60,000.
I lost my ability to speak.
It's not the first
While
time.
while the novel is less of a recipe.
Mm,
Mm.
It's less predictable, and you can have heavier themes.
mm.
And we
And that was it. It wasn't just
What-
Eleanor and Danny and
Albert.
fuck Albert.
or don't.
No,
Don't
yeah,
recommend.
don't. Do not recommend.
Do not recommend. Ask Christina.
But
It is not good.
It was a deeper
Make
sort
me
of
spit.
love than the books that I've been reading recently. You
But
know what I mean?
I-
It was
I
It's
have a
not-
thought.
more substantial.
I think the setting and the time period in which it plays off also makes the romance less of a centerpiece to the story.
Yeah, there's so much
because
more
there's so
to
much
the
going
story.
on around the story.
Mm.
It's Danny in his dog fights and Johnny doing his thing and stealing my heart, you know? And
You were
it's-
the only one.
hey, don't judge. Don't judge. It's the accent. And the dimples.
Can you even understand him?
Yes!
Only because it's written out.
You only need to understand certain things and then you're good.
There's no
Okay.
wingspan. There's Spitfire wingspan, which is all good.
Yeah.
As long as you get when he calls you lass, you're fine. That's all I need to know.
Yes.
There's a Scottish.
Is that the equivalent to Feyre, darling?
Yes. Oh yes, but it's better. So much
I-
better.
just became a little nauseous. All right,
Yeah.
so what book are we doing next? Because I feel like we're not going to do the ACOTAR series
In order.
in order. We're going to try and accommodate all of our tastes.
Yeah. So
So
I
let's
think-
hop to something else.
What
are
do
we
you
gonna
want to do next, Jen? Because I'm basically reading what you tell me to read at this point.
You shouldn't ask me what you need to read, darling. That's the
I know, I'm learning.
I've got a suggestion.
Yeah.
I've got 2 copies of the book, I think, so I can lend one to Ches. The Eagle Has Landed by Jack Higgins.
Oh, can we please?
Another short Irish man with an accent in there. It's historical fiction. It is
No
something.
wingspan, but it's gorgeous.
It does.
I love it.
I think there's at least one bedroom scene. He calls her an ugly, funny, ugly little.
Pretty ugly little thing, ugly pretty little thing, something of the sort. No, but there's no detail. He skims.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Good,
Good,
because
because
I've
I've had my full of detail.
no, there's no detail. I read the audiobook
I'm
with
feeling
my
like I
father.
need to
And that
do a
should tell you
cleanse.
enough. Yes, you need bleach.
And read I'm gonna go home and read a Terry Pratchett to kind of cleanse myself of all of this crap.
I've got an idea for the future.
Mm.
I'm going to put a stack of Jen all over Jen. A stack of Wilbur Smith books, and I'm going to bookmark some pieces, and I'm simply going to read some of it to you, and the video will be your expressions.
Yes, because after I heard what I've just borrowed from my father-in-law last
It's
week,
not that bad. It's not that bad. And I mean, he reads it. Maybe that's how your husband was made. I broke her. I think this is the time to make sure she drinks that glass of gin, and we will do some tender loving care, make sure she's all right, give her some sugar water, and we will see you
With The Eagle Has Landed.
when we
Next time.
see you.
when I've finished reading the book.
Yes. Thank you for checking in with the craziness.
Yes.
Oh,
Stay
Jennifer.
tipsy. Yes.
Genevieve.
Jen is already tipsy.
I have
so
to go horse riding now. Wish me luck. I might die.
The horse is sober. Bye,
At
guys.
least.
Bye.
Ooh.